All right, what's the best microphone for podcasting? But really, the question here is what's the best microphone for you and your specific situation? First up is the Samson Technologies Q2U. This is a USB/XLR dynamic microphone that will run you about $70. So obviously this microphone is very affordable, which will be appealing to a lot of people right up front. As stated earlier, it can be connected directly to your computer via USB, or you can buy an XLR cable and connect it to an audio interface. Totally up to you, but for more flexibility and higher quality audio, I always suggest the XLR route and buying an interface. But if you're itching to immediately get going, the USB route is a great way to start. Now, one thing to note here is the cheaper you go with a microphone, the more problems you can encounter, and one of those can be higher self-noise, for example. The good news is if you understand post-processing and things like equalization and denoising, etc., you can mitigate a lot of these problems. If you'd like help learning any of that, you can sign up for a private session with me or a class where I teach all of that. Links in the description. Next up is the super popular Shure SM58 cardioid dynamic microphone. This mic will run you about $100, and as stated, this microphone is very popular and used a lot in live situations. It's incredibly durable and built like a tank, so it will last you forever. It was made for vocals, and a lot of people find it pleasing on the voice, but obviously not everyone will agree. Some people say this microphone is a bit dull sounding or too dark. But here's the thing, if you're recording long-form narration, it's always better to go with a darker sounding microphone over a brighter sounding microphone, because when it comes to long-form narration like podcasting and things like it, a brighter microphone can become fatiguing to the listener's ears. Also, there's a common misconception that usually comes from people just getting into audio, and they think that the brighter the audio, the better the microphone. And that's just not true. Everything has a time and a place, and that definitely goes for microphones. You just gotta know when and where to use what microphone. It has really good ambient noise rejection, so it's more forgiving to noisy environments. There's really not much else to say here. There's a reason it's a legendary microphone. All right, and next up we have the Rode PodMic Cardioid Dynamic Broadcast Microphone. This microphone will also run you about $100, and I use this microphone each month when I record and edit the Atlanta Voiceover Studio podcast. As stated, just like with the SM58, it comes in at $100, so it's very affordable. I think this is definitely a great option, especially when starting out. The only two complaints I have about this microphone is it's pretty bad about plosive rejection, but that's an easy fix just by having proper microphone technique, which you are seeing me do right now. And if you'd like, you can learn all about that technique if you just go and watch my video, Stop Using Pop Filters, which I will link in the description of this video. And my second concern with this microphone is just for some voices, it's kind of bright sounding, a little harsh, if you will. And if you're someone that deals with really bad sibilants, I'd probably steer away from this microphone. But like I said at the beginning of this video, if you understand how to use post-processing like equalization and using de-essers the correct way, then you'd be just fine. All right, the next microphone on my list might shock you, especially if you know me from the previous channel I was on, but this channel is about more than just voiceover. It's about all things audio, so I can actually talk about microphones like this one, the Blue Yeti. It'll cost you around $130, and yes, this microphone won't pass as a voiceover microphone for a few reasons, but let me be clear here. This isn't my opinion. It's the industry's opinion, and I just follow the industry standards, and you definitely don't have to follow them, but I wanted to make that very clear. But here's the thing, putting aside all of those reasons, the audio quality it puts out really isn't that bad. I think it's incredibly ugly and bulky, and I don't like the way it's built, but that's not why we use microphones, or at least that's not why we should use microphones. But let's be honest, I do like when something's aesthetically pleasing. Anyway, as long as you're not one of those people talking into the top of this microphone or the back of the microphone, you'll find this microphone really doesn't sound quite as bad as you probably were led to believe it sounds. This could definitely be a viable option for you. All right, up next is the Shure MV7X XLR podcast microphone. This microphone will run you about $150, and as you can see, this microphone was inspired by another microphone that I'm sure you guys knew was going to be in this list, the Shure SM7B. To my ears, this microphone does a pretty good job at emulating the iconic SM7B, especially for the price point. This microphone also has a version that has both XLR and USB capabilities packed into one microphone, if you need both options for whatever reason, but it's about $70 more expensive. I also think the solo XLR version sounds better anyway, so just like with most dynamic microphones, it does a pretty good job at rejecting surrounding ambient noises. And just like with the SM7B, I think it has a pretty smooth, pleasing sound to it. This could definitely be a great option for your podcast, and it's not insanely expensive. Up next is the SE Electronics Neom USB microphone. This microphone will run you about $170, and I actually just reviewed this microphone not too long ago, and if you want to see that full review, I'll leave a link in the description of this video. Personally, I love the way this microphone sounded. It was a tad on the darker side, which, like I said earlier, is great for long-form narration, and it's one of the few USB microphones I've been really impressed with, and it's pretty affordable. One thing that really impressed me was its ambient surrounding noise rejection. I definitely think it's a great option for your podcast. All right, up next is the Rode Procaster. This microphone will run you about $170. The build quality is solid, and I've heard people say that this microphone sounds right in between the Shure SM7B and the Electro Voice RE20. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So this might be a great option for anyone out there that thinks the SM7B is just too dull or dark sounding and want a little more clarity in the audio, but don't want so much clarity that it ends up fatiguing the listener's ears. Now, there's also a USB microphone from Rode called the Rode Podcaster that has the same build factor as this microphone, but sounds significantly worse from what I've heard. So I would shy away from that option, but as for the Rode Procaster, I do think this would be a great option for your podcast. All right, and up next is one of my most favorite microphones, the Rode NT1. This microphone will run you about $270. And this is a large diaphragm condenser microphone, unlike most of the ones that we've reviewed so far, which have been mostly dynamic microphones. But I wanted to add this one here because I just love this microphone so much. This is my go-to microphone recommendation for voice actors that don't want to break the bank but want really professional sounding audio. I have yet to hear this microphone sound bad on anyone's voice. A pro about this microphone, other than its really affordable price and the awesome audio quality, is the fact that it has one of the lowest self-noise ratings out there of any microphone on the market. All microphones produce a certain amount of self-noise, some worse than others, and the Rode NT1 has an extremely quiet self-noise, which is awesome. Now, a con to look out for here is the fact that it's a large diaphragm condenser microphone. So it's more sensitive than a dynamic microphone and will pick up much more ambient surrounding noises, but the good news about the fact that it's more sensitive is the fact that you have a much higher gain output than other dynamic microphones, meaning you won't have to turn the gain on the interface up nearly as much as you would with most of the microphones on this list. And then one final con about using this microphone as a podcast microphone is the fact that it's less forgiving in an untreated space because it is a large diaphragm condenser microphone and not a dynamic microphone. I always say that 70 to 80% of having professional sounding audio is how you acoustically treat the space that you're recording in. But you can get away with not treating your space quite as much when you're using a dynamic microphone like a Shure SM7B. But if using a large diaphragm condenser microphone, you really need to make acoustically treating your space #1 priority. If you want me to give your audio or home studio a listen, or if you want guidance on building out or treating your home studio, you can check out all the services I offer over on my website. Link in the description. All right, and up next is the microphone you see me using in pretty much every YouTube video, the Shure SM7B. Now, this microphone will run you about $400, and of course, everybody knew this microphone would be in this list just by looking at the thumbnail or the title of the video. But I've done a full review of this microphone that you can find over on my channel, link in the description of this video. But this microphone is legendary for so many reasons. It has great surrounding ambient noise rejection, the build quality is fantastic, it has a super smooth sound to it that's definitely not for everyone, but like I've been saying, the darker or warm sound that this microphone produces is perfect for long-form content like podcasting. It's just incredibly easy to listen to. Also, people just see this microphone and think professionalism because it has that signature look that we've all been seeing for years and years now. But it's not without its cons, of course, the main one being the fact that it requires so much gain to get good levels out of this microphone. But the newer interfaces and mixers that are coming out right now, like the Rodecaster Pro 2 for example, supply more than enough gain to properly power this microphone. But we're not all made out of money and probably don't have all of the new gear on the market, so most people will end up buying a gain booster to pair with this microphone. You can find the link to my recommended equipment in the description of this video where you can find all of the gain boosters that I recommend. Now, one final con for most people is what we've already talked about, the microphone's cost. It's a bit up there, and if you plan on having multiple guests on your podcast, that can get pretty expensive pretty quickly. But if you want quality and a familiar sound, this mic has it. Alright, and now we have the Electro Voice RE20 that will run you around $450. Now, just like with the SM7B, everybody knew this microphone would be in this video as well. Basically, anyone who doesn't prefer the darker sound of the SM7B and wants more of a top end or a brighter sound to their audio, this is the microphone they would go to. One thing that's really cool about this microphone is the variable D that's built into the microphone. This is supposed to alleviate the proximity effect. The proximity effect is as you get closer and closer to a microphone, the bass in the audio becomes more and more prominent, which can cause the audio to become muddy and intelligible. But the variable D accounts for that, so the closer you get to this mic, you won't have this happen like you would with a lot of other microphones. So along with that and the brighter sound of this microphone, the solid build quality, and the fact that it's also an iconic microphone that's immediately recognizable like the Shure SM7B, this is definitely a solid choice for your podcast. I will say, however, because this microphone has a brighter sound, you may deal with more sibilance issues with certain voices. But as stated earlier, as long as you understand post-processing like equalization and the proper way to use a de-esser without destroying your audio, then you're going to be just fine. If you need help with learning any of that, you can find all of my services over on my website. Link in the description of this video. All right. You know what they say.